Notice of certain basic technicalities in the book. The Russian state calendar is retained that was in use at any particular time, the Julian one until the 31st of January 1918, and thereafter the Gregorian one. This may disconcert those who are unaccustomed to dates of international importance being rendered in this fashion, but the prime objective is to avoid confusion with Russian dates. Proper names are given in an abbreviated form of transliteration. The exceptions are individuals such as Kerensky and Trotsky, for whom the familiar English form is used. Most place names are offered in the contemporary Russian imperial form, despite the offence that this may give to present-day sensitivities. Tiflis, Odessa and Kiev, instead of Tbilisi, Odessa and Kiev. To avoid confusion with the Western Front in northern France, I have called the Eastern Front what the Russians named the Western, or often as not the Northwestern, Western and Southwestern fronts. I have also used Great Britain as a shorthand for Great Britain and Ireland, and have not made mention of the United Kingdom, which was rarely employed in the years under consideration. London, September 2022. Introduction. In 1913, Nicholas II celebrated the Romanov dynasty's tercentenary with no expense spared. Solemn services of praise and thanks were held. Banquets and military parades took place at which God Save the Tsar was sung. The Emperor and his wife, Alexandra, visited religious shrines deep in the provinces, where they drew sustenance from the welcoming local peasantry. Industry was buoyant, and the agricultural export trade flourished. There was peace on the empire's frontiers, and Nicholas believed Russia could defend itself against any hostile foreign power. His diary showed no sign of concern about what might lie ahead for him and his family. His complacency was ill-founded, and within a mere 4 years he was to fall from the throne, and the empire in its old form would be no more. Why did the Russian imperial monarchy collapse in the February 1917 revolution? What explains the provisional government's failure to manage the volatile situation it inherited? And how did the communists storm to power in October that year and go on to enforce their dominance after years of civil war? These questions have vigorously exercised the minds of later generations, because the October 1917 revolution in Petrograd transformed the course of world history. The communist leadership imposed a form of despotism that came to be known as totalitarianism. The Soviet state spread its tentacles and antennae into every zone of public and private existence. Communism assumed governmental control over the economy. The secret police stamped out overt political opposition. The mass media became an official monopoly. The Communist International was created in Moscow to spread communism throughout the world. The USSR became an economic and military power that made the decisive contribution to the defeat of the Third Reich. The expansion of communism's influence continued. By the 1950s, a third of the world's Earth's surface was ruled by communist administrations. The Soviet Union, armed with nuclear weaponry, waged the Cold War against the United States and its NATO allies. This book examines the seething cauldron of developments between 1914 and 1924. The outbreak of the Great War gave rise to profound disruptions in imperial government, administration, politics, economy, and society. Nicholas II felt compelled to abdicate in February 1917. A few months later, the Bolshevik Party, which at the very beginning of the year had only a few thousand members and little political following, overturned the provisional government of Alexander Kerensky in the Russian capital Petrograd. It was an outcome that stunned contemporaries. Questions about the events and situations that produced it continue to perplex us today, questions which prodded me into writing the chapters that follow. There are many fine works on Russia in war and revolution and civil war, and there are almost as many angles of approach as there are works. But widely missing from them is one of the main things I explore: which is a sense of